Well, greetings. Welcome back to another episode, this week's edition of We Speak. Good to see you, Ernest. How are you tonight?
Hey, it's great to be seen. Great to see you guys all. Welcome back. Welcome everybody watching.
And Shaina, good to see you as well, dear.
Hey, it's so good to see you. I missed you. I feel like it's been so long.
It has. This is the shortest commute to get to see each other. How are you doing tonight, Dr. Broandnax? Good to have you back.
Thank you so much. I'm doing very well. Glad to see everyone.
And Tiffany, you're back with us for this special episode this week too. How are you this evening?
I'm great, thank you. How are y'all?
We're doing excellent. And none other than Knoxx is also with us. How are you this evening?
Got a lot on my mind, but we'll get to that in a second.
We will. And of course, I'm Byron Garrett, and I'm excited to be back. We do have a lot on our mind, Riley. I mean, when you think about all that has happened since we were together last week, we were talking about George Floyd. Obviously, the mural that is painted in Minneapolis sits behind me in this particular episode. But there's so much that's happened since that particular time. And this week, we've decided instead of doing a script and talking about key items, it's going to be an entire episode dedicated to I Speak. So all of us have come to the table this week with our own specific topics, and we want you to enjoy the discussion. And we're going to get started tonight. I know, Riley, you are itching with good cause.
Don't make me go first.
Top of mind.
You know I got a big mouth.
Got room for nobody else. Get him, Riley.
You know, this week was already hard, or last week was already hard for everyone, especially in the Black community and just everybody around the world, because we have allies everywhere, right? So this week got really hard, much harder, especially for me and my community as a transgender woman. You know, I don't understand how, if we're going to say Black Lives Matter, you cannot say you are for the Black Lives Matter movement if you are homophobic, if you are transphobic, if you don't include every single person in the Black community. To see one of my sisters get beat in the same city that George Floyd was killed in, and in such a horrific way, like the same week that we're marching for equality, we've got 30 plus men beating on one trans, and I know a lot of you already saw the video. And I talked about this yesterday on my YouTube video, and it took me a minute to get the video out because I was so angry. And it is so hard to, as a transgender woman of color, to stand up and march for, because let's just be honest, transgender women and people in the LGBTQ community have been at the forefront of protest for as long as we've been around, which is the beginning of time. So it is very hard as a trans woman for me to protest and get out there and speak up when something happens to someone, to a Black man, when they don't do the same thing for us. Because let me just tell you, the same week that George Floyd was killed, a trans woman was killed. The week before that, 2 trans women were found burnt up in a car in Puerto Rico. And the week before that, another trans woman was killed. So it's just crazy to me that we always hear about what happens to Black men and Black Lives Matter. We always hear about all that, but we never hear what happens to transgender women. When transgender women who are dropping like flies, when they get killed, nobody hardly ever hears about it. It is not on the news most of the time. They get misgendered. They get it brushed under the rug. The police don't take it serious. They don't try to find it out. And the first thing somebody wants to say is, what did she do?
Right.
What happened? How was she tricking him? Did she not tell him that she was trans? Did she not disclose that she was transgender? This woman, Ayanna Dior, let's say her name, she was an offender bender. She scratched someone's car by accident. The woman got out of the car and demanded that she give her money. Now you tell me, in what world do you get in a car accident with somebody and they demand money from you, first of all? So they're wrong there, number one. Number two, she gets out, the girl hits her. She defends herself, like we all should be defending ourselves, hits the girl back, and 30 men jump on her and beat her, and with the intent, and you can't tell me the intent was not to kill her, because once she went into the convenience store, and she's in the convenience store getting beat, and then the people that own the convenience store behind the counter try to protect her. All the guys say, you got to come out. After you have beat this woman this hard, what is there left to do besides kill her?
That's right.
And it's just so crazy to me at a time where we're marching for equality. And if you want equality for Black people, you should want equality for every Black person. So that's why I say, for me as a Black transgender woman, I'm going to march, as my friend Hope said, I'm going to march for the cause. I'm going to march for my own Black equality, but I'm not marching for specific people, because I don't know that those specific people would have marched for me. And it's crazy because there are Black cis heterosexual men who want us to march for them, but will never speak up for us. And everybody's at fault for it, because we need everybody in the community, in the Black community, whether it be cis heterosexual women, whether it be gay men, other transgender women, to speak up for us. Because how many times have Black men been in a barbershop? If you are a Black man that they can't tell that you're gay, and you hear them talking about a transgender woman, or talking about a faggot, talking about whoever, and people don't speak up about it. And I'm just done. I'm done sugarcoating it. I talk about it on my channel all the time, and I've always tried to sugarcoat it in a way that makes it like, oh, like I just want to get understanding, and I want people, but I'm done with that. I'm done with the understanding. We need everybody in the Black community to stand up, because nobody stands up for us, and we get killed all the time, and nobody even finds out about it. Nobody says anything, but we are expected to march for Black men who get hurt at the hands of police or at the hands of other people, when we are being killed, like dropping like flies. And I'm done.
You're right, Riley. I think Dr. King put it best when he said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And even Fannie Lou Hamer said, unless all of us are free, then none of us are truly free. And it's amazing to me as well when you think about not only Ayanna, but as you just chronicled, the number of Black trans women specifically who died. And we can talk about Troy McDade, who also got killed this past week down in the state of Florida. But the reality is there's two issues in my mind. One, the broader mass media doesn't cover it and pay it any attention. That's first and foremost. And to your further point, secondly, the African-American community, the Black community in this country acts as if it's non-existent. It's like, I don't see it as a problem, so that problem does not exist. What do you think, Shaina? Because I know you were ready to say something.
No, I think in listening to what I hear Riley saying, I think that the new tag should be all Black Lives Matter. All Black Lives Matter. Because I think it's unfortunate in the transgender community, when you decide to be a woman, it's unfortunate that you end up getting the burden that women have. Because Black women's lives don't matter to Black men or to the rest of the world. With looking at how domestic abuse happens for us and nobody talks about it, how women go missing, no one talks about it, how women are raped, no one talks about it. So as a transgender woman, you end up with the you done double dipped, and you get it even worse than the worst that we're already getting. So I think Black Lives Matter started because of Black men and us rooting for them and us marching for them and protesting. But Riley just reminded me, all Black lives matter. It's like the Black kids that are growing up in the hood that can't get books, that aren't getting access to education. Their lives matter. They deserve a chance too. The crack babies. It's just like all Black lives need to matter, and we need to care about all Black lives as much as we care about the Black men that are getting killed in the streets. It's important. It's something that this racial, social injustice is terrible. But it's like she said, it's not just limited to Black men.
That's right.
And it's not just limited to police brutality. When I saw the video that Riley's talking about, I'm sitting here thinking, if we can do this to ourselves,
that's right.
If we can be that animalistic in the street, but we're mad when somebody else does it, it's like they think it's okay to do it because they see us doing it to each other. So they feel they don't have to give us that respect because we're not respecting ourselves.
Yeah. So, Rashan, would you say that you think that there's not the same value placed on life within the Black community from that perspective?
I would absolutely say that, but I think if we talk about historically, the lives or just the livelihood of transgender women has ever been respected. You know, even within our own community, if we look at the divides of the LGBT community, we always say, you look at, there's a divide of gay men, there's a divide of white gay men, then you have, you know, the drag sector, and then the transgender sector is always generally towards the bottom. And so even within our community, we don't quite respect them as much as we want to be respected. So I think that it's actually going to have to start within our own community. And once we're able to embrace them as people, as humans, because I think a lot of times we discount that, once we're able to embrace them in that way, other people will start to see. Now, I think it's going to be a long road, unfortunately. That's something that constantly has to be talked about. But I think that people who are like Riley, who have a platform, have to speak about it so that more people are aware. And then things will, you know, hopefully get better over time. But I think it's a very long road. But I think, like you said, Riley, you talking about it on your channel, constantly bringing it up, is a great start. And we just have to get more people to be like that. And then within our community, just become more embracing of the transgender people.
And I'll take that a step further, Rashan, because I don't think I don't know that you're implying this, and I don't believe that you are, but I want to clarify for folks who are watching, it does not become the burden of Riley or another trans person to be the only person to speak up and use their platform. I think what you're advocating for is that anybody who has a platform, it is our collective and shared responsibility to step up to the plate and speak on behalf of those who don't have the same platform, don't have the same folks who are advocating for their cause. It is necessary. We too have to share in the fight because we're in this struggle together. People can say what they want to, but we all got to the same shore and we're all in the midst of the same type of struggle in this country where people who do not look like us see us differently and see us as a threat. Ernest, I'm curious what your take is on it.
I'm sorry, let me just go back to that real quick, Byron, because I do agree with you, but I do mean to say that people who are transgender that have a platform have to speak about it, because I think it will start there. They have to get us to understand where they are, you know, and then we can pick up a mantle, because we can't expect, say, a white person to advocate for us. We have to advocate for ourselves first. And then I think in that particular situation, the transgender community, those who have that type of platform, who have a voice, they have to advocate for their community so that we recognize the need for that and be able to carry that forward. Then we can expect other people to advocate for us.
I will politely disagree with you. I don't need to wait for Riley to post to look at that video in the middle of the store. What I saw was a human being who was being beat.
Absolutely.
And 30 other people conspired to do the same thing.
Absolutely.
They need to all be held into account. So I'm not waiting for somebody else. It's just like whatever happened in the park with Karen, Amy Cooper. I'm not waiting for anyone else to step up to the plate, but I recognize that some people have a privilege that others don't. And white people can change oppression the same way straight folks can help change oppression, but we have to collectively recognize we all have a role. I'm not saying that you're wrong or that I'm more right, but I want people to be clear. Folks have to advocate for themselves, but sometimes people in this country don't actually have agency. We think they do, but society doesn't advocate on their behalf, so we need to rise to the occasion. But Ernest, go ahead. I'm gonna give you a thought as well.
I'm so reminded of how unfortunate this whole thing is, and I'm kind of pained because there's such a triple series going on here. We as Black people, we as Black men, we as Black women, we as trans. Well, first of all, let's start with we as Black men and Black women. We want to be respected and treated the same by the heterosexual male, the white people, any other nationality. We want to be treated equally as a minority, to be treated fair, to be treated equal. Yet we, at the same time, which means we need to educate ourselves better, we need to look at ourselves deeper. How dare we look down at, beat, belittle someone else that is our same color, despite their choice? How dare we look to be uplifted when we're still putting down ourselves? How can we look to other people to uplift us and to take us serious when we're still denouncing and denying ourselves in a different form just because I guess a white person doesn't see a black person as equal, and we're trying to make that happen. But the same person that you're denouncing is the very person that you are. It is the very person that we are, despite their choices. It is sad, it's unfortunate, and I think we all need to look deeper and further. In order for us to be respected, we have to respect on all levels. In order for us to be taken serious, we must take every level serious in order to be, in order for that to be receptive for us.
So we got to be respected on all levels. Tiffany Thomas, what's your thought about this particular issue? Very timely.
I really think that there's so much Black love missing in the culture as a whole that if we started paying more attention to loving each other, then that will automatically command and demand the respect and love from others. So before we can start to say, I want, white people or whoever or the police to stop being violent against Black people, we have to take it upon ourselves to correct what's wrong within the community itself. So before we can tell anybody to fix what they got, we got to clean our own house. This includes the way heterosexuals, homosexuals, trans, any kind of interaction or dynamic within the community, it all has to start there before we can start making demands on anyone else, in my opinion.
Yeah, so self-love is necessary.
Yeah, of course.
You have a final thought on that before we move to the next I Speak?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify something. I agree with both you and Rashan, actually. I agree with Rashan in the sense that I am a transgender woman who has a platform, so it is my duty to speak up for my community. But my whole point in all of this was, where I agree with you, is that we need all of you to speak up for us. Let's be clear. Transgender women were at the forefront, starting with Stonewall. Transgender women starting with the ballroom scene. We have marched for the LGBTQ community. We've always been at the forefront. We have been the mothers of the community. We've been the mothers of houses and all these different things. And we are expected to march for the equality of Black people. But there's nobody that stands up for us. So what I'm saying, I'm not saying nobody, but I mean in general. So what I'm saying is the biggest point of what I'm saying is we need you. We need our cisgender men who are heterosexual, our cisgender men who are bisexual or homosexual, our cisgender women who are heterosexual. We need all of the Black community to stand up for us. The same way that people this week were calling for white people who are to stand up to make a stance and let us know where you stand, white people on their post. We can't just do it. People who have privilege, and there's privilege everywhere. There is white privilege, but there's also privilege within the Black community. That's and right. The lowest of that privilege are those transgender women. So we need those people in the Black community who have privilege to stand up for us. And so that's what my whole point is. Yes, I do have a platform. Yes, I'm going to use my platform. Not every transgender woman has a platform. Not every transgender woman can speak up for herself in that way. So what I'm saying is if we're going to be about Black Lives Matter, we need everyone. So this is my call for you. I need your help. In my community, we need your help because it's happening. This didn't just happen because of George Floyd. This has been happening over and over for years. It's been happening. And the thing is nobody ever hears about it.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying to everyone here on this panel and everyone watching the show and everyone who is in the Black community, we need you.
And we hear that loud and clear, and we're going to answer that call because you're exactly right. If it was not for Marsha P. Johnson, there would be no LGBTQIA movement in this country or around the world. There would have been no Stonewall riots, to say the least. Ernest, let's flip up to you to see what you're thinking this week. What's your I Speak topic for tonight?
That's kind of put on the spot. I just want to start by celebrating. I with all this stuff going on, and we hit a lot of major points last week. If you didn't check out the show, please go back and check out some of the prior episodes, especially last week. I just want to pay respect to the Black women in leadership. As we look back, as a Black male, we're portrayed as something different. And we hear the phrase, I'm reminded of the phrase, behind every great man is a great woman. That is so uplifted with me within my research, within what I'm seeing. I look at Kamala Harris, Maxine Waters, Stacey Abrams, Val Cummings, Muriel Bowser, who's here. There's so many great women. But the one I'm celebrating right now is this woman called Keisha Lance.
Speak on it.
Oh my goodness, y'all. That's all I can say. I'm such a big fan. Now, I think our mayor here in DC is doing an amazing job. And to be a woman, to take this initiative, to take this position, to take over like that is great. I want Mayor Bottoms, the mayor of Atlanta, to excel a lot more than what she is. I mean, some of the stuff she said is just amazing. And so I kind of looked up her resume and to find out she was a former lawyer, a judge. She's a Delta. I mean, how can you not be proud of this woman? The way she put the president on blast this week, man, I have some quotes. It's just amazing. And the dignified way she did it.
He should just stop talking. This is like Charlottesville all over again. He speaks and he makes it worse. There are times when you should just be quiet, and I wish that he would just be quiet. Or if he can't be silent, if there's somebody of good sense and good conscience in the White House, put him in front of a teleprompter and pray that he reads it and at least says the right things, because he is making it worse.
I just want to celebrate the women right now, not taking anything away from the men, but the message that the women are sending, even down to Riley, Shaina, and so forth and so on, Tiffany. It is amazing how you guys stand up, how you guys are standing out now, how you can't be silenced, man. I'm so proud of each and every one of you guys. I celebrate you guys. I thank you guys. I stand with you guys.
I think as a black woman, sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not. But I was a little bit embarrassed by her a little bit, because she came across as the angry black woman.
You talking now?
And I was like, Keisha.
But are you saying now or originally when she ran?
No, like when I saw her this week, when she had originally addressed the protesters and not the protesters, the looters. When she had addressed the looters, I was sitting here saying, could I see Michelle Obama having the same conversation? And I said, absolutely not. Because I'm like, girl, tone it down some. Like, she started and was all the way up here, and the whole thing, she was just she never lowered her voice. She was like talking as if she was reprimanding her children.
This is not a protest. This is not in the spirit of Martin Luther King Jr. This is chaos. You're not honoring the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. and the civil rights movement. You're not protesting anything running out with brown liquor in your hands, breaking windows in this city. T.I. and Killer Mike own half the West Side. So when you burn down this city, you're burning down our community. If you want change in America, go and register to vote. Show up at the polls on June 9th. Do it in November. That is the change we need in this country. You are disgracing our city. You are disgracing the life of George Floyd and every other person who has been killed in this country.
And I'm like, you shouldn't even talk to your kids that way. But I know I've seen black mamas do it because mine did it, my grandmama did it. But I'm like, you can't do that on national TV though. Like, you can't scream. And like Ernest said, I've seen her address people in a great way. I've seen her give some great speeches. I've seen her, but she just got so angry. And in that one moment could not communicate. I felt like it could affect as mayor. You might as well have your rollers in your head and your house and your slippers on. I was like, don't do that to us, because people are going to be looking at me. I was like, somebody go get her. Go get her. Go pull her in the house.
But Shaina, okay, I guess I can agree with you, but to understand, sometimes in the heat of the moment, and you guys have to understand this, as a mother, as a leader, you have to sometimes relate to your people differently. Now, unfortunately, the camera was there, but you have to say something that people are going to, they have to understand you. They have to listen to you. Sometimes you can't just say, hey, you guys stop. They're not going to hear that. Sometimes we're not going to hear that in the heat of the moment. But when you say something in a way that we'll understand, we move, we listen, we understand, and we act accordingly. That was the heat of the moment then.
And you know what, Ernest, I just want to add on to that, and I'll go to you in just a second, Riley. I totally agree. Shaina, I get what you're saying, but you know what? It is part of society that tells us that you must speak and act and talk a certain way because you hold this position or you have this particular opportunity. You know what I heard when I heard her speak? I heard a Black woman who happened to be mayor, who literally did not know at one point in time where her son was, but knew that her son could meet the same fate as George Floyd. And I heard in her voice the anguish, the frustration, because she knew it wasn't the first time. It probably will not be the last time. And she was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I do agree, though. Can you shift and soften your tone and your posture? But we've done all those things. Colin knelt. People silently protested. We've done all that. It was not until people started rioting and looting that the broader public mass said, wait a minute, enough is enough. I mean, just if you look back at Ahmaud Arbery, he had already been dead and deceased for 2 months before they actually got to a point to issue an indictment and say that we're going to charge these guys. So I understand what you're saying, and I believe there's a time and space for all that, but the time is up right now. I mean, Boo, my perspective right now is whatever voice you need that you have that needs to be heard to pierce through all the noise. And yeah, somebody needs to speak up to the occupant that sits in the White House. His time is up too. It's coming. It's just a matter of time. I'm like Obama, don't boo, but vote. Sorry, Riley. I know you were going to say something else in relation to that.
Yeah. I 100% agree with you. I feel like, you know, the wonderful thing about Black people and especially Black women is that we are so multifaceted. So to Shaina's point, you know, there are some Black women who get points across the way Michelle Obama does. There are some people that get points across the way that Ms. Bottoms does. But here's the thing. Sometimes, and like for me, I am no longer worried about being an angry Black woman. I'm no longer angry because here's the point. Here's the truth. We got a lot to be angry about. And the thing is, just to your point, Byron, sometimes they can't get it any other way. This week is proof. They couldn't get any other way. We have been silent. We have been complacent. We have dumbed ourselves down. We have softened ourselves to try to speak to the tone of what white people want us to think to be, or to be more universal, or to be commercially universal. That time is over. That's all over, because I don't have time to worry about you thinking that I'm angry when I got so much shit to be angry about.
And I'm just thinking, me as an adult, you can't talk to me like that ever.
Oh, absolutely.
If we're face to face, you can't even talk to me like that.
You gonna shut down, Shaina? You can't even hear it. Like, nope.
I'm ready to fight. Like it was so aggressive. And as the mayor of a major city with the world watching, you can't do it. And like Ernest said, she had some really good points. She was saying some really good stuff, but I really think it was lost in the mix of the tone and her delivery, because I shut down. She ain't talking to me. She can't be talking to me, not like that. And I'm sure a lot of people just kind of was like, you can't. I was able to hear everything she was saying. I was like, that's a good point, but can you bring it down? Can you, like, your hair ain't even done. Like, stop it. Like, it just seems so, because when you start talking crazy, I get to focusing on small stuff that I shouldn't. My mind starts floating into the whole other different direction. I'm one of those people. So I'm like, I just really wanted, it was an amazing message. I just wanted it delivered in an effective leadership way. And I felt like she could have mixed it in and done, because it wasn't impactful. I'm like, no, it didn't change the outcome. It just made her look crazy. Wow.
Rashan or Tiffany, to either of you, I don't know if you had a chance to catch Mayor Bottom's comments, but I'd be curious what either of your thoughts are.
Go ahead, Tiffany.
I think that when Black women speak, it always appears to be overtly aggressive, no matter what they say or the connotation that they take. So her passion automatically will come across as you know, virile and angry and aggressive and, you know, maybe with a little sass and a little, you know, you mix a little ghetto in there, a little bit, a little something, and you know. But really what it comes down to is the messaging. What is the message saying? How are we going to take it? How are we going to receive it? Because really, she wasn't really talking to him. She was talking to us about him. And maybe she was speaking in a way that we can receive it, that we can hear it, that we can absorb it through her passion and her excitement and her concern and all of those stuff, which need to be embodied in the messaging.
Shaina basically said I made an excuse for her being sounding the way she did. I get it though. I'm curious, Rashan, what you think.
Well, you know what? I appreciate Ernest's tribute to the women. What I would say to Shaina, because Shaina said she was offended basically by how she came on. One of the things that that I've learned, Shaina, because I think I'm a person that I always like to speak in a certain type of way, you know, try to phrase things in a certain type of way so that it's received in a certain type of way. But I think when we're dealing with certain people, we have to speak to them. We have to meet people where they are. And I think that she probably, like Byron said, thinking of her son and thinking of those type of situations, she stepped into that mother role because she's really the mother of Atlanta. And so she went into that mother role and was like, listen, this is what I need y'all to do, you know, and she went on and we have to seriously think back at, you know, our mothers and grandmothers when we were doing stuff and they went on that tirade that we didn't see very often. That's how I looked at that situation, that she was sick and tired of what was going on and she wasn't trying to play the political nice role. She stepped into that motherly role and was like, this is what I need you to do. And I need y'all to get it together quick, fast, and in a hurry.
Get it together quick, fast, and in a hurry. You heard it right there. Tiffany, I'm curious, what's your I Speak this week, Ms. Thomas?
Well, let's see. What I really wanted to talk about was now that the protesting, even though the protesting is still going on and is kicking up, we need to now have a policy conversation. Now we need to get to the real work, and that is legislation and policy. One of those policies in particular that I would like to discuss is the anti-lynching legislation that passed the House. Bobby Rush, who is a representative in the House from the state of Illinois, passed legislation in February that was an anti-lynching legislation. That passed the House, I believe the vote was 410-4. So 410 people voted yes, 4 people voted no. In this legislation, people who committed acts of violence against people on the basis of race would go to federal penitentiary for 10 years. That's basically what the legislation said. It passes in the House, so then it goes to the Senate. In the Senate, you know, Mitch McConnell was not going to take up that legislation. So Kamala Harris said, okay, I got you. She wrote her own legislation, which was basically an exact duplicate of Bobby Rush's legislation. It went on to pass in the Senate. And so now you have almost 100% matching bills in the House and the Senate. Okay, this was back in February, March timeframe. So now people are revisiting this conversation because these 4 gentlemen and George Floyd would be under this legislation and get these 10 years, in addition to the charges that Keith Ellison has filed against them. Here's where we come in with the problem. Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky says that he will not allow the legislation from Bobby Rush to go for a vote in the Senate. He says that, quote, people should not let's see. He said minor bruising should not cause people to have 10 years in the federal pen. Now, let's be clear here. What happened to George Floyd was a whole lot more than a little bit of bruising. He went on to say serious bodily injury standards, and he wants to add an amendment to this legislation, basically allowing for there to be conversation as it relates to the amount of time that people like these officers would receive. Okay, Tim Scott, who is the only Black male Republican in the Senate, said, well, what the House should do is they should pick up the legislation that the Senate already passed. Now, my girl Nancy Pelosi said, these are the same pieces of legislation. What are you talking about? That makes no sense.
Right.
So here we go with this really important legislation. Once again, that's being held up by the Senate, and Rand Paul is again the problem, who comes up for re-election in 3 years, and I'm going to say this again, 3 years, so he needs to be voted out too. And that's my moment. That's what I needed to say.
No, let's go ahead and get into
Let me in. Let me tag me in. Put me in, coach. Put me in, coach. So the thing that's crazy is what I hear is all of it goes back to now. This law, this bill, is really going to prosecute white people.
Yes.
It's going to prosecute white people mainly. And that's why now they're like, oh, wait, now that we see it's mainly going to be us, it shouldn't be 10 years because it's bruising. But when they came up with the 3 strike law, right? And that was going to get us. That was about blacks and browns. And it could have been bruising because somebody is getting life for stealing a piece of pizza, right? Remember that? Because now your final strike was bruising, but they're going to give you life for that. No one had a problem with giving somebody life for minor petty theft. They don't care. But now all of a sudden you can drag somebody, you can kill somebody because I'm white now. It's bruising and I shouldn't do 10 years. It's not going to pass because it's against them.
No.
And they know that they're the ones that are going to be.
That's why they all need to get out of office. Get rid of all of them.
This is called convenient laws for you. When it applies to a black person, it's one thing. When it applies to a white person, it's another thing. It's got to be universal across the board. And that's really what we've been fighting for. That's what this is about.
They can't plead that down.
We're not saying
no.
Nobody's saying that somebody wants more than another person or somebody deserves more or we deserve more. It's always been about equality. It's never been about wanting more. But it just goes to show you that when it's a different color, when it's this and not this, it is completely a different thing. They want a different law. That as long as it serves to oppress black people, let's keep it. When it doesn't serve us at all, then we got to throw it out.
Wow, that's an interesting perspective. What you think about that, Ernest? What's your perspective on these two different laws and the reality that it's not moving forward at the moment?
Hearing everything that's going on, the first thing that comes to my mind is modern day slavery. Please don't take it. You can take it however you want, but modern day slavery. If a law, for example, Shaina gave a great example of the 3 strikes law. And we do remember the example back in the day. If a guy he does several different things, but if he steals one slice of pizza, which is the one that basically alarmed the nation, then that's his 3rd strike, and that's a wrap for him. Okay, but when it comes to laws that apply to them, we have to change the narrative completely. We have to change the whole dynamics of everything that's going on. So it does the lynching. I mean, it plays into the same issues that's going on. Here's my thing. Not to change the subject, but I feel the issue in politics, the main issue is these old folks, Lord forgive me for saying that, but it's the reality. The old politicians have to go. They're career politicians that will die in office. We have young politicians, if you look at the marches and so forth and so on. They're young guys who have changed the whole dynamics of the game, who are really looking. We have a slight chance, a greater edge with this young generation. But these old cats, it's tit for tat with these guys. I remember
Ernest, doesn't that also apply to the Supreme Court justices as well?
Yes.
Well, Let's start at the bottom, baby. That's going way baby steps. I agree with you, but let's start at the bottom. Let's work smart. These guys are in for life. We can't do anything about that right now. But as far as the Senate and the House, I shouldn't say this, but I have to say it because it's on my heart. Biden, and though he's our only choice that we have, and I'm not going to say anything negative because he's going to be my vote on the ticket. But he's been he's a career politician forever. It's just like when Nancy came in and she gave Barack he gave her his agenda, and she says, okay, but look at mine, because you're only going to be here for 8 years. I'm here forever.
Right.
Politicians, it's just ridiculous. We can't move forward. It's so hard for us to move our agenda forward when these career politicians, these old heads, oh my God, that sucks, but it is what it is.
But Ernest, it's the balance of it too, right? Because Maxine Waters is in that same category. But before we move off of it, I'm curious, Dr. Broadnax, what's your perspective on this?
I would say, I think I'm with Ernest with his point, but I think it goes back to Ernest. We as the people vote these people in. So we can't really say, get the people out of office or they don't need to be there. We have to start thinking that for ourselves and saying, we don't want these people there. And see, that to me is the problem. Now, like Shaina brought in, she said the Supreme Court justice, yes, those are lofty people that, or they're way down the line that we have to get to. But those are definitely people who nobody should have a lifetime appointment, in my opinion. Nobody should have that, because everybody has an expiration date, not in life, but as far as their ideals, because as time changes, not everybody's mind changes. They stick to their old same principles. And so when you go back and say, like, the lynching law, to me, a life for a life. If you are bold enough to go out and kill someone with intent, then I see no reason that you can't spend your life in jail, because I don't necessarily want to kill you, but I need to deprive you of the same freedoms that you deprive the other person of. So you need to sit there and think about that for the rest of your life, how that one simple act that you did, or not simple, but that one act that you did had drastically changed the lives of other people, especially the life that you took. Your life needs to be drastically changed. And that can only happen when you're in jail and you have no choice but to sit there and think about it.
Wow. So we're going to sit here and make sure they sit and wait their time out. Somebody else's life.
Those are the people that I would pay to stay in jail. Those are the people that I have no problem spending my good tax money to make sure that they stay in jail. These other people with these penny ante crimes, let those people go. People who have been locked up on marijuana charges for 10 years, let them people go. Marijuana is now legal. All those people who got convicted
low level
statute, they need to be let go at this time. As long as it's legal within your particular state, let it go. Let's move on. We're trying to hold on to the people because, again, like we said earlier, the prison system is a business. Most prisons are privately owned.
And so can I just insert a point there, if you don't mind? And most people who have 401ks or retirement plans, you should check your plans, because what you're going to find out, usually the top 2 or 3 companies that your plan is invested in
are private prisons.
Operate private prisons. I know we got to keep it moving for the show tonight. Thanks for that particular point, Tiffany, on the modern day lynching and the lynching law. Shaina, what is your I Speak this evening?
Well, my I Speak has to go to sports, because nobody else is going.
We ain't doing it.
I was going to do one on sports, but you go ahead.
Okay, great. So there has been a lot of talk about Drew Brees, quarterback for the New Orleans Saints, and his comment about, the anti-kneeling and Colin Kaepernick and his whole situation. Now, for folks that have followed us for the last couple of years, y'all know how I feel, how I felt, how I still feel, and how I will continue to feel about Kaepernick and his knee-gate situation. But I feel the same way. And I love me some Drew Brees. But the craziest thing is that he made a comment. If you guys haven't heard his comment, he basically said,
I will never agree with anybody disrespecting the flag of the United States of America or our country. Let me just tell you what I see or what I feel when the national anthem is played and when I look at the flag of the United States. I envision my two grandfathers who fought for this country during World War II, one in the Army and one in the Marine Corps, both risking their lives to protect our country and to try to make our country and this world a better place. So every time I stand with my hand over my heart, looking at that flag and singing the national anthem, that's what I think about. And in many cases, it brings me to tears, thinking about all that has been sacrificed, not just those in the military, but for that matter, those throughout the civil rights movements of the 60s, and everyone and all that has been endured by so many people up until this point. And is everything right with our country right now? No, it's not. We still have a long way to go. But I think what you do by standing there and showing respect to the flag with your hand over your heart is it shows unity. It shows that we are all in this together. We can all do better, and that we are all part of the solution.
And social media and the Black community went off on him. It was like they disassociated. They went crazy. It was like they forgot everything that he had done for the city of New Orleans, all the money that he's donated, all the other things that he had said prior to. But what I loved was that he came back with an apology statement that was amazing, because it was what he should have said first, and then he could have said what he said. So he acknowledged the fact that there is a lot of social injustice and that it ain't right and that we need to do something about it. And then he apologized for how insensitive his comment sounded and how it made people feel. So my question is, I think it was Stephen Jackson had come out and said, if you don't agree with us being able to take a knee, that means you're a racist and you're not with us. And I sat there and I was like, that ain't what that means, because I'm so against y'all taking knees. Ain't no reason to be taking a knee. We can find some other thing to do. We can find another way to protest. But I was like, wait. Are we telling people now that you got to do it the way I would do it, exactly how I would do it, or you're a racist? What are your thoughts about that?
Well, Shaina, go ahead, Riley. I'll give it to you first.
I'm going to tell you my thoughts about that. All right. So here's the thing. Drew Brees says that he loves the national anthem. It gives him a feeling whenever. And also, you know why it does that? Because that national anthem and the words in that national anthem have always served his people. Okay?
You know what, though? I cry every time I hear the national anthem. Everybody who knows me knows at every sporting event, if you sing that thing right, I fall out and I
If they sing it right because it sounds good. But let me tell you something. Not me. Because if you listen to the words in that national anthem, it was never set up to serve Black people. And even if the words that it says, even if those words were true, we're not seeing those words displayed in America right now. So if he hears those words and he hears that it is something that gives him a feeling, that's because it's always served him and his people. When other Black people hear that, they think of how this country has not been there for them. So the same way that he can't tell them how, the way that they can't tell him how to feel when they hear it, he can't tell them how to feel when they hear it, excuse me. He can't tell them how to feel about them taking a knee because it has not served them. He has lived life through the perspective of a white man with privilege and in a country that has always been there to serve white men. They are Black people, Black players, Black men who have never felt that this country was on their side. So the same way we can't tell him how to feel about the national anthem, he can't enforce that onto them. And anybody who has a problem with the taking a knee, I'm not saying, oh, you have to protest the way I do, or you have to take a knee, but I feel like what it is a case-by-case basis. It's what it means to you, the way you feel about it. My experience in this country may not be the same experience that one of my teammates has just based off the color of my skin.
That's right. No, you're right, Riley. And I think, Shaina, the other thing I would add to that is that in looking at Drew's initial statement, and you know, it wasn't that he issued a statement. He was actually in the middle of a live interview. So whoever his publicist, his PR team, they should have prepped him better. And he should have been thinking differently if there is genuine concern. What I've discovered over time, for people who this particular work and their care, their concern, their compassion, while they may not always find the right words, they recognize that they've got to call a thing. And where he erred initially was he didn't even acknowledge the civil unrest. He didn't acknowledge that George Floyd has lost his life. The only thing he chose to focus on was the same thing the occupant did. How dare you sit here and kneel as your form of protest? I don't find that agreeable or to my liking. And the same people, like Drew and others, turned around and tried to tell the protesters, the looters, the rioters, any of those categories, well, this is too far in terms of how you protest. But what Colin did in his symbolic nature shared a different message. And now folks are wishing that that was the original form of protest. But I will say this, I give him credit for coming back a day late, but $1 short, on offering a full-fledged apology and characterizing the language in such a way. But that was also a crafted statement that someone said. I don't know him personally, so I'm not in a position to determine. But I do know, like you said, I know his works in the marketplaces where he's been. I know what he's supported, what charities. He does put his money where his mouth is. But this is one of those cases where, given the civil unrest in this country, when we talk about folks using their platform, like we talk about Riley using hers on behalf of Ayanna or all of us, he had a responsibility to be in solidarity with his brothers. Even if he didn't get out there and protest, he had a responsibility to call a thing, and he didn't do that initially, but I'm glad he did. Go ahead, Tiffany. We'll turn it over to you.
You know, first of all, I love what Colin Kaepernick did. I always have. I think it was amazing. I think it was great. Kudos to him, and I'm sorry he lost his career. With that said, the issue.
He was a terrible quarterback. He was not good. He was on his way out. He had a problem with his contract.
He was a pass shy of a Super Bowl. He was one pass shy of a Super Bowl. He was setting records. He was fresh off of a knee injury.
Oh, no, he wasn't setting records. He choked in the Super Bowl.
I'm sorry. Where are we going with that?
Hold on, Shaina. Hold on. Shaina coming with the receipts.
No. We can't have that. We can't have that. He was one throw shy of a Super Bowl. This man, yo, don't look like that though. Don't do that. He was one pass shy of a Super Bowl. He was setting records. He was coming off of a knee injury. He was rehabbing. He had been working out. He was look. All of that is neither here nor there. All of that is neither here nor there. What does matter is the third verse of that Star Spangled Banner, which talked about slavery and all of that other stuff. That's the real reason why every time I hear the national anthem, I say, oh my God, I'm gonna sit my ass down. So I have no love lost for the national anthem. I don't care nothing about none of all of that. It means nothing. I do what I do. I live my life. That's it. But, you know, people who respect the flag, that's your business. More power to you. I appreciate the me. But my issue with Drew Brees is that in 2016, he's got that photo taken of him taking a knee with the black players. So were you fake then or are you fake now? How we rolling with this? How we rolling with this, Drew? How you want to play this? That's how I feel about it.
Dana, before we give you the final thought on this segment, go ahead, Riley. What's your...
I have one quick thing. It is so ironic, however you feel about the taking the knee, it is so ironic that people were up in arms about somebody taking a knee, and then look where we got because of a knee, right? Right? So don't we wish that we had the protest of that knee, that you would have listened with the first knee, then George Floyd might still be alive because of a damn knee. You know what I mean?
And Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery. Rashan, go ahead. We're going to get your point in too before we go back to Shaina.
What Tiffany said, and then back to Shaina, the thing, because I had that as my I speak too, but I was coming from the standpoint of, what do you think? Because I didn't accept his apology.
Of course not.
I believe that when you speak first in haste, you speak what you really feel. because you don't have a chance to craft it. And the fact that that statement came out and it sounded just so beautiful and eloquent, he did not write that, number one. And that was given to him to say because they said, oh, you done stepped in it and everybody is turning, so you need to backpedal that which you said, and here's your statement. So to me, I believe, like Riley said, when were you fake? He was fake in 2016 when he took the knee, because he did it because he was just in that situation. I believe yesterday he spoke how he really felt, because what he said was when he hears the Star Spangled Banner, he thinks of his grandfather. So like you said, he's coming from a different perspective, but he's thinking about it only with these blinders on. He's not thinking about it in totality, like you said, Tiffany. Go to the third verse. He's just thinking about, my grandfather came here, he did this, he fought in the war, all that kind of stuff. He has blinders on, so it really was not in totality that he was thinking about the situation. So again, I did not accept that apology. I just said, we saw you for who you are now. I don't believe that overnight you changed your mind. Give me a year or two and show me some work. And look, then I believe you changed your mind.
Hold on. Look, for Shaina, you said folks weren't going to talk about sports or bring up an issue. I think folks got opinions on this one. Go ahead, Ernest.
I love it.
I'm going to exclude you or leave you out before we get Shaina the final thought on this one.
This is why I believe in separation of church and state. This whole conversation is coming about because 45 happened to meddle into a whole arena that he had no business meddling in the beginning. I did hear what Drew Brees said, and he did contradict himself. He said something about one of his relatives serving in the military, because I tuned a whole lot of it out.
Grandfather.
Right, okay, and he said that it's about the flag and unity. And I just like right there, because unity, are you listening to the message that you're saying? Unity is equal for all. This march that we're doing right now is about equality, which is not happening right now. For real, in the sports sector, I used to be a diehard Cowboy fan since 1977. I turned it in when 45 decided to chime in, and I saw Jerry Jones kneel with the Cowboys, and he made this whole turnaround when 45 jumped in and said what he said, and all the billionaire owners switched their whole mindset about it because of the almighty dollar. At that point, I decided I was no longer going to be loyal to a franchise that really wasn't loyal to anything but themselves. So that's just me. And at this point, when that happened, it changed everything. You know, nothing is really real in NFL. What Drew Brees said was a career-bending thing for him. So you're right. Just like Dr. Broadnax said, somebody wrote something for him to fix that. Yeah. Drew Brees is about to retire. How dare he say something like that? But that goes back to privilege. Check out last week's subject.
Danny, you get the last thought on this particular piece around Drew Brees. Since you raised it, we're going to leave it with you.
Two things. So Ernest mentioned it, and then Tiffany mentioned it also. When Drew Brees took a knee and when Jerry Jones took a knee, it wasn't during the national anthem. They took their knees prior to the national anthem to show that we're in unity with the protest. But they were also showing that we can take a knee before, we can take a knee after. It just doesn't have to be during, because we feel a certain way about it. My dads were veterans. My brothers have all served. So when I listen to the national anthem, I'm just grateful and proud of the people who put their lives on the line for us, because I would not be willing to do it. I don't know how those people can fight for this country or any country. I don't understand how their families are okay with that. I know I couldn't do something like that, but I'm always so grateful. I'll admit, I don't listen to the lyrics and think about what it was written for, because like we said, some things could have one meaning one day, but a different meaning today. I'm just always so grateful that people are willing to sacrifice something that I'm unwilling to sacrifice. So when I hear the national anthem and I see the flag, I think about my relatives who fought, and I'm just so grateful, and I get so full, and I'm always so proud. So when I saw him take a knee, and of course, originally, he didn't say anything about social injustice. He just took a knee and was silent and quiet. So I immediately thought, like everybody else, which I'm sure it was, was that he was disputing his contract because he had issues. Eventually, I'm happy. I don't care how it started. I was happy that it started a movement and went somewhere else. But with Drew Brees, I think that he didn't apologize for what he said. And I don't think he had to apologize for what he said, because I agree with what he said. Now, what he did come back and say is, I should have said this first. And I agree. You can feel the way you feel, but you should certainly acknowledge that shit ain't right and something is going on. And I don't think he needed somebody to write that for him. I think he's done a lot of work. He's got good sense. And he said, yeah, I should have said that shit first. I'm going to say it now. I'm going to apologize for having not said it. But he didn't backtrack on anything he had said before. He simply said, I'm going to say this now because I should have said it first. And I still feel the way I feel about the others. So it's not like it's health and skelter. He hasn't contradicted anything. He just acknowledged what should have been acknowledged, which is what they're all acknowledging now. And lastly, I finally said, because I noticed there's a lot of designer brands and a lot of major companies that this week have released statements. And they have, Etsy, the CEO of Etsy came out with an amazing statement. And I'm like, Etsy, who cares about Etsy? I don't even need you to say anything. But when I read it, it brought tears to my eyes because he wrote it, or whoever wrote it, it was so thoughtful. And the fact that he signed his name to it when he didn't have to, I was like, this is where it starts. And then Gucci came out, and then Bank of America donated billions of dollars. I'm like, so now
1 billion.
1 million.
One of the largest banks in America.
No. Bank of America, billions. They donated billions over a structured period
Their
of time.
statement was they were pledging $1 billion. I'm just telling you what their statement said.
It'll be more than 1 billion, but
the second largest bank in the country.
Say it again? Yeah. I mean, but they don't have to. But the fact that they did,
Well,
and so I made a conscious decision to say now, similar to what Riley had said earlier, if you don't show me that you're on board with this and you're willing to put up some money and make a statement and do something more to affect change, I can't do business with you. I cannot do business with you. So I'm looking closely on all the people who I spend money with, all of their websites. I expect to see a statement from everybody that I support.
Well,
and I'm okay with giving up some things that I enjoy if they don't do a statement.
Well, Shaina, I'll tell you this, and I, like you, I too believe people certainly need to look to see where you spend your money, where you spend your dollars. I looked at Ben and Jerry's statement as just a simple example, and they actually outlined a full plan of what should be done. But then when you talk about businesses, then you look at the piss poor statement that the NFL put out. But I'm going to leave that there for people who didn't see theirs. You should go read it. The same people who blackballed Colin Kaepernick, you can also read his statement. And I'm like Tiffany. I mean, Bank of America, you can go back to history. They owe the black community more than $1 billion, more than $5 billion. Because
just in all them fees they charge people.
Hold on.
Let's be clear. No amount they offer will we ever say is enough.
Well,
we're never going to say it's enough.
They
could give us all their profits for 1 year, and we would still say it's not enough.
Okay, well, I still want to see more. But Dr. Broadnax, we got to make sure.
$1 billion?
Yes.
It's $1 billion.
Oprah got 6 of them, so surely the bank got more than that. So one ain't that much. Let's move on, though.
They don't profit $1 billion in profit annually. I promise you that. Just because it's just there, it ain't profit.
You give me a second. When Dr. Broadnax pulls up, I'm gonna tell you how much that CEO made last year, and I guarantee you, with benefits and bonuses, they probably made close to $100 million last year. But Dr. Broadnax, we don't want to exclude you, so we certainly want to get your I speak for the week.
Where are our Black leaders? You know, the uprising, I want to call it. I sat and I thought about, I said, it just seems like it's slightly organized, but it's a little all over the place for me. In comparison to with other movements, what is missing? And to me, it's the Black leader. There's not any person to kind of direct what's going on. I don't really know where the direction is coming from, but I just wonder, where are all the people that we used to revere, you know, back in the day, but then let's forget about those. Where are our current Black leaders? And I feel like that's what's largely missing in our society, in the Black society now, that we don't have those people to kind of look to kind of keep things rolling and to keep a certain level of direction in front of us. I was talking to my sister, I think it was my sister about it, or it was either a friend. And I said, you know, just in thinking about it, I was like, well, where are they? Why don't we have them? And my personal thought was, we had the leaders that came out in the 60s and the 70s because we were just coming off of major turmoil within the Black, you know, community. Once we got beyond the whole civil rights movement, we were fooled, myself included, into thinking that things had really changed. So we let down our guard, and then we found no real need for our Black leadership like it was then. So now we've gone a whole generation almost without them. And when we think of Black leaders, the first people we think about, of course, are Martin Luther King. We think about Jesse Jackson. We think about Al Sharpton, but those people are quite old. But where are the people who are our age, who are in leadership, trying to lead and direct the Black community? So my question again is, where are our Black leaders?
No, that's a great question. I'm gonna kick it to you first, Riley. I wanna make sure folks keep it short so we can get everybody in, but let's start with you, Riley.
I got to answer. I know one, I think I heard that a lot of those people are up in age, and the way we were talking about, you know, the Supreme Court, and that, like, everybody ages out. I'm sure when I'm 80 years old, you guys don't want to see me shake my ass in a leotard on stage. So everybody ages out of their job eventually. But but my point is, like Jesse Jackson and all, like Farrakhan, all those people, they're getting up in age, right? So I back in the day, we did wait to hear from those people, and I definitely agree with Rashan on that. But I will tell you this: the one thing that gives me so much hope is these young people right now, these millennials, they got this shit on lock, because they are protesting in ways that, like, we haven't seen since the 60s. You know, they're standing up and they are very inclusive. I am very hopeful and prayerful for them. There are a lot of new leaders out there right now, like Kendrick Sampson is one of them that I follow. But there's so many people on social media. There's so many Black leaders right now that are younger, and they might have not gotten the traction that of a Malcolm X or Al Sharpton or Jesse Jackson has gotten, but they're on their way. And that is the one thing that gives me so much hope, is seeing these young people, not even just the Black people, the millennials of all colors are standing up, and they are taking rubber bullets to the forehead. They are doing all this stuff, and we don't know their names, you know, their name just yet, but I see them all the time on my social media. I'm scrolling, I'm just like activists like crazy, and it makes my heart feel really good, because I myself am getting older, and I'm not able to protest the way that they are able to literally be on the front lines. You know, even Keke Palmer, as this past week, was literally up in the forefront, and it just makes me feel so good, because these millennials have a totally different way of handling shit.
Yeah, thanks for that, Riley. How about you, Ernest? What's your thought on that question? Where are our Black leaders right now?
We look at Al Sharpton. I mean, when we think about Black leaders, we think of Al Sharpton, we think of the Reverend Jesse Jackson, and a few up and coming. And we have to even reach back to Martin Luther King and things like that. We do need a new brand. We do need when I look at the march that happened, we look at the young people, and in this positive movement, there happen to be a lot of young white people that happen to help us move into this forward movement that's actually happening right now. We do need stronger, younger voices, because, like I said, we and I'm not going to put anybody on blast, but even myself, we're getting older. It's time for us to sit back and relax and enjoy the fruits of of what we sowed at this point in time. It's time to pass the torch on to somebody else. We can't do it forever. I would never want to be a 70-year-old politician. It is time to hand it down to somebody with fresh ideas to move this country forward. We need more young, strong Black politicians. And we, as the older people with our older ideas, they don't move forward in this new session, this new millennium. We need the new millennials to handle this new era. And we need to sit back and let them handle it. I mean, we can't do it forever.
Well said, Ernest. We're gonna keep it concise. Shaina, what's your point in terms of where the Black leaders are? We know you one of them in real time.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I'm the Black leader. No, I'm kidding. I'm leading people. I thought I sat and watched the memorial service today, and what I thought was great, because I thought Al Sharpton was on his way out. I'm like, he's old, he's done. But what he said today that I really grasped onto is he made a comment. He said, they're talking about making America great again, and then he called them on it. He said, America, when has America ever been great? Yep. It's only ever been great for white men. He said it's never been great for black people, brown people, or women. America has never been great for anybody except white men. So when he said it, I'm like, okay, you can still lead. We still got you. And then he's like, people keep saying, I want the camera. He's like, yeah, I want the camera. I want the camera on me so I can basically call it like it is. He said, nobody ever calls me somewhere to be quiet or keep a secret. We know when they call him, the camera is going to be there. He's going to tell it like it is. He's not going to be concerned or worried about how people feel or how people perceive or if they going to not like him. So I'm like, you hold on to the crown. You still hold on to the crown. But like you said, you getting up there and now you the skinny Al Sharpton and you used to be the big Al Sharpton. And I'm not sure how much longer you're going to be around. So go ahead and start coaching and training someone else, so that they know what to do, and they got all your resources and your contacts and your connects. So when it's over, gone, boo, you next.
All right, thanks for that, Shaina. How about you, Tiffany? What was your thought from this perspective?
I really like Tamika Mallory. I thought that her statement during the protest was amazing. She tied it back in to make it historical and political as well as relevant to the Black bodies that have been lost. I don't necessarily know if I would call her leadership, but when you think back, a full leader yet, I think that she's in that mold though. When you think back to the Malcolms and the Martins and all them, what really inspired them, or what really truly, in my opinion, made them leaders was the religious piece of it too. They were coming out of the church or the mosque or a religious foundation. And that is what made them able to galvanize people. You have to remember that the Black church was where people used to be able to get voting, where they would be able to sign up for voting, where they would be able to get questions answered about insurance. I mean, like back in the day, I'm not talking about today. And that is the piece, in my opinion, that's missing. And if we come and we form an element around that, then I think that we will be able to mold and grow leaders in those same veins. Because even Marcus Garvey was coming from a place out of the church. Stokely Carmichael came up under Martin. So these leaders were from that church base, and I think that that's the component that's missing to it. And if the church wasn't so busy trying to be mega churches and making money, and that's a whole nother conversation, then maybe they could grow some true revolutionaries. But that's just what I think.
First of all, the people gotta want to go to church.
I was gonna say, Rashan, and we're gonna go around the table in a minute and give our final thoughts for the week. Rashan, I appreciate that question, and I want to tell you I really appreciate it for a number of reasons, but I'm going to answer it this way. We are the they, so whoever the they is you're looking for in this day and age, you have a platform, whether it's social media, however you choose to use it, everyone has a voice. I'll give a couple examples. You talked about Tamika Mallory is an example, DeRay McKesson, those folks helped create Black Lives Matter. Tamika was even involved with the National Women's March, right? But then you got folks on social media wearing it out, like Brittany Packett Cunningham, I should say. You got David Johns at the National Black Justice Coalition. There are people who are moving. You got the young sister out of Flint, Michigan, who's like, I think she may be 9 or 10 right now. She got a Black Girls Rock Award this year, who's holding everybody accountable, saying, where are you? We can give all this money in the bailout in the middle of this and these stimulus checks, but folks in Flint still don't have clean water to drink. So I don't think all is lost. I am incredibly encouraged and hopeful, but we also know that it's always been young people that's really transformed the entire perspective around the entire country, whether that's here or abroad. And so we know that they still need guidance. Ernest, I can't quite agree with you. We can't sit it out yet, bro, and just celebrate. There's too much at stake. Because when I look back at it and I find out that George Floyd, I think, was 46, I'm 47. So that just as well could have been me. I'm not going to sit down right now because tomorrow that could be a foot right here on my neck. But let's go around the virtual table. We want to get final thoughts for the week from those folks who are watching. We want to remind you, you can catch this episode and others. We want you to ring the bell for notifications. We want you to share and like on YouTube. Simply go to WeSpeak_the talk show. But let's start tonight's final thought. Shaina Taylor will get you to kick it off.
Well, my first final thought is, who that bitch on Ernest's lap?
Leo. My baby.
Okay,
Come on.
You got to introduce. You can't just be introducing new cast members. I be feeling threatened about stuff. I'm like, you bringing somebody else to the table? Hold on a second. I come one time and they gonna kick me off. Okay. Hey, Leo. Okay. So yeah, my final thought is the same as it was, I think, last week. I'm super excited now to see where things go, though, because I think that I really feel hopeful that we're finally at a point where we're going to really focus on affecting change. Like, we're not going to just accept the status quo. They're not going to be able to pacify us much longer. So I think that we'll finally see some movement, some ticks, and getting things going in the direction we want to go in. And with that, once we get the ball rolling with that, I think, like Riley mentioned earlier, we can then start movement with other things that are important as well. Because we know we got to do things one thing at a time. And that's kind of like the order of things. But I loved having the conversation that she brought something to the table that I didn't know anything about. And so now that I know what's happening with transgender women, that it's way more awesome than what I see. Because I'm like, you see it on TV shows, but I'm like, is this fake? Is it now that she's told me that it's something that's real? I can really get some traction behind it and really, because it's important. So having these types of conversations is always great to inform so that now we're no longer ignorant. And similar to what I was hearing everybody say earlier, when you see something, you say something, and when you know better, you do better. So we all got to do it now.
Very well said, Shaina. How about you, Ernest Collins? What's your final thought for the week?
My final thought for the week is I want to say how proud I am. I was a little fearful at first about this movement that we have, the marches that are consistent. It's been 7 days consecutively, I believe, since the George Floyd situation. I was fearful at first because of what we talked about, the message being lost. And in the beginning half, in the entry phase, we saw the peaceful protests and then the rioting. The rioting only negated the message. It took away. And my fear was that it took away from the positive movement that we were doing, that we were going. It negated the fact that all the positive things we were doing were being swarmed by the fact that we are these barbarians that are taking opportunity. Thank God for everybody who took place. And we talk a lot about white privilege, and we did call out what we needed to call out. However, this movement is great with all colors marching, and I want to salute and send a shout out and praise to everybody that's getting out helping this movement. We couldn't do it without you guys. And I just want to thank everybody for the march and for being consistent and for standing in there, for negating everything that happened in the negative to make the nation look at us as in a positive arena.
Outstanding. How about you, Tiffany Thomas? Ms. Thomas, what's your final thought this week?
My final thought is two-pronged, so I know you're going to be mad, Byron. But I think that one thing is that there were 20,000 new COVID cases just yesterday. Let's not forget that we were in isolation for a reason. Let's hope and pray that all these protesters haven't caught it, that it's not going to be going around to these protesters, that we need to continue the fight. because they are the new generation. They are the future. They are the new leaders, the new politicians, the new thought provokers, those new people. So we want to keep them healthy and safe for the long haul. In addition, I also believe that now is a time that we need to educate on
that's right,
the true meaning of what Blackness is, the true meaning of what it is that we are owed from this country, that we have contributed to this country, the real reason that we are continuing to die for this country, how all of that, how this works politically, economically, financially, and how all those things tie in together, and why we're in the situation that we're in. Why do we live in ghettos? Why is there environmental racism that impacts the community? All of these questions need to start being asked and answered, and we need to read and educate ourselves as to those things.
Very well said. Dr. Broandnax, how about you? What's your final thought?
My final thought is very similar to Ernest. I would definitely say I am so proud and encouraged by what I have seen. At the beginning, there was much that I was kind of disheartened by, and by way of the looting and all of that, because I think it did overshadow a lot. We tend, as people, we focus more on the negative than the positive, and I started to see that became a greater story. But I'm glad that as the week went on, it died down and the real story continued. And I hope that the momentum that has been gained and the ball that has started rolling, we are able to continue it. We know that people are not going to continue to march day after day, year after year. But I hope that they are able to take up that mantle in different ways, like Riley mentioned earlier, via social media, or like Tiffany said, through the legislation, that we're able to actually see some result, and therefore these people whose lives were taken will not have died in vain.
Powerful words. And Riley Knoxx, you kicked us off tonight with your I Speak. What would be your final thought for the week?
My final thought is that I'm exhausted. I am mentally exhausted, as are a lot of everyone in America right now, exhausted. But I'm telling you what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to stop speaking out. I'm not going to stop talking. And I urge everybody else to not do the same. Like, I'm just getting started, really. And while people were marching and we were protesting all week for justice, for equality, for George Floyd, and for arrests to be made and the charges to be brought up, and while that did happen, that doesn't mean that now we stop doing all of those things, that we don't pick up in the same way that Rashan was just saying. Now's not the time to be silent. Continue that on. Have that same energy, maybe not in the same way that we were protesting before, but to have the same energy. While I am exhausted, I'm not going to let that stop me from continuing on. And that would be my urge to our viewers and to everyone here also, is to continue on, because my eyes will definitely be on what's going to happen next. Because yes, they made arrest, and yes, they they upped the charges, but what happens next? Are they going to slide through the cracks? Is there going to have to be another uprising? What is going on with the election? Because what happens with a lot of times with these things that happen, whether it be the coronavirus, whether it be, protests, whatever, that is a perfect opportunity for the government to go in and slide something in that while we weren't paying attention. So my biggest takeaway from all of this conversation we had tonight, and my biggest urge for everybody, is simply stay woke.
I know that's right. Our panel tonight is absolutely awesome. I'll wrap up with my final thought, but we want to thank Ernest, Shaina, Dr. Broandnax, Tiffany, and Riley. As always, it's absolutely amazing to have this level of conversation and dialogue. I have two final thoughts that come to mind. One of them comes from Mary McLeod Bethune when she wrote her last will and testament. She said, we must have the courage to change old ideas and practices to direct our efforts towards good ends. And the other, you would almost feel like that all hope is lost, but we do see progress made every single day. And Dr. King reminds us that we should choose love because hate is too great a burden to bear. With that said, as always, we thank you for watching and ask that you join us again when next we speak.
He did what?
That changed the world.
That changed the world.